Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Angyanatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayamupakadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Saganalalita Shri Vishkanvitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpati Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sate Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Panchakalpati Yubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Hare Krishna. Okay, it's Saturday, June 6, 2020. It's an evening program. And I thought to read through and maybe discuss some philosophy discussions with Srila Prabhupada. Specifically, well, I remember early in my Krishna consciousness history, maybe it came out in the 80s when I was in Israel, there's this book, Dialectic Spiritualism. It's a rather thick book, and Prabhupada specifically discusses different Western philosophers. And it's his disciples, Shyamasundar or Hayagriva, kind of represent the Western philosophers. And then the Prabhupada comments on their ideas. And so that's dialectic spiritualism. Prabhupada, I think he particularly chose the name of that book. That's what I remember from the conversations and the letters. And then apparently in more recent years and decades, there's been other books also with some of these transcribed philosophical conversations, like
Beyond Delusion and Doubt.
Beyond Religion, was it?
Beyond Delusion and Doubt.
Beyond Delusion and Doubt, Quest for Enlightenment, things like that. Yes. Okay. All right. And then a few months ago, I was reading, in my personal reading, the second volume of the biography by Shamsundar Das Prabhu, Chasing Rhinos with the Swami. So the first volume is kind of like, well, it's like his history before he met Prabhupada, and then San Francisco and England. And then the second volume gets into like India, and then he becomes Prabhupada's personal servant for like 2 years. And so during those years, 71, 72, he's one of the main things is this project. And it's just, when reading that biography, it became very apparent how this is a very important project for Prabhupada, his commentary specifically on Western philosophers. And it's like 50 of them, started with the ancient Greeks through like at least the early 20th century philosophers. And so it was very, very clearly, Prabhupada would tell Shyamasundar, tomorrow morning we must make time for this and like that. And then Shyamasundar he would go to his books to brush up on who these philosophers were and things like that. And so it was a very important project for Prabhupada. And then, So we have this, it's a 7-volume series, Collected Teachings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And most of these 7 volumes, they're like transcribed lectures from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Brahma Samhita, Appearance Day, Bhakti Siddhanta, things like that, Nectar of Devotion. And then in the last 2 volumes, or at least the last volume and a third or so, it's the direct transcribed conversations, like before any editing. It was like in Dialectic Spiritualism, Quest for Enlightenment, and yes, that, what was the other one you mentioned?
Beyond Delusion and Doubt.
Beyond Delusion and Doubt. In those, they got editing for a particular purpose, you know, and, but this is kind of the raw thing without editing. So I thought to read some from here. And so in this volume, what we have, this is the end of volume 6. We have some conversations between Prabhupada and Shyamasundar. The 7th, practically the whole 7th volume, like 700-800 pages, is conversation between Prabhupada and Hayagriva. So these conversations with Shyamasundar, they're less voluminous, and they include conversations about Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, David Hume, Immanuel Kant, Charles Darwin. The Darwin section is like 80 pages. Henry Bergson, John Stuart Mill, and William James. Very interesting. So the first one is Leibniz, German philosopher. And it's interesting. So this is the first one. So I'm just starting here. In a sense, it's random. In another sense, okay. So again, it's unedited, so it's lengthy, and I'm sure we're not going to read the whole chapter tonight. But you know, this term I use a lot. You know, we are that irreducible quanta of consciousness, and so it's, you know, I found a lot of people like this term, even sometimes at pearls at the end of a program. So the pearl will be irreducible quanta of consciousness. So I did not coin that term. I'm not exactly sure where I first got it. It might have been from the first Krishna consciousness lectures I heard back in my State College, Pennsylvania days from Stamba Das. He had a very intellectual approach to sharing Krishna consciousness. And then like the early scientist devotees from the Bhaktivedanta Institute in their publications, I'm pretty sure they used that term, devotees like Sadhaputta, things like that. Okay, now in terms of Western philosophy, this term, irreducible quantum consciousness, that's most associated with Leibniz, it just so happens. Leibniz has this, he had this idea that the ground of all reality are monads, which is really best described as an irreducible quanta of consciousness. So he was very clear that consciousness does not just arise from a combination of matter or things like that, that the essential animating force are individual units of irreducible consciousness he called monads, and then those who translate Leibniz into English often translate that as irreducible quanta of consciousness. Okay, so we could just read through and see where our discussion goes. Okay.
I have to say, I liked it. I thought of the similar concept like the soul back years ago.
Yeah.
When I was thinking about the meaning of the soul, and it was similar to this. Like I was imagining it as being some part of me, what that was, like some pure aspect of me
Yes.
that could never be tarnished, that nothing that I could do could ever ruin it, or that it could never be destroyed. And I found that really nice. And then when I contemplated it for a while, and then it was just at one point, it was just like a pinhole shift happened in the middle of my heart, and it just, something opened up, and it wasn't something that I had to suspend in my head, or it was just like literally a change in my heart, and it never went away now. So.
This was like before you encountered Prabhupada's teachings.
That was after.
But after, yeah, okay, yeah.
So it must have been some mercy I got there.
Yeah, right. Okay, yes. Mm. Okay, so, all right. So now I'd heard of Leibniz mostly in mathematics, like when one studies calculus, Leibniz is like the inventor of calculus along with Isaac Newton. So he was a real Renaissance man. You know, he was a physicist and a mathematician and a philosopher. So Shyamasundar says, today we are discussing Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz. Leibniz was a great mathematician. He invented the calculus, but he was also a philosopher. He said that in the universe, every act is purposeful, that the purpose of the universe is to realize the goals set forth by God. Prabhupada, very nice. I see that he's first class. Yes, actually the aim is to reach God. That is the Bhagavat version, Atevi tu svartagatimi Vishnu. These rascals, fools, they do not know that the goal is to reach God. This version, Atevi tu svartagatimi Vishnu, Durashaya ye bahir art manina. Durashaya means they are hoping something which is never to be realized. All these people, and then there's a break in the tape. Actually, this is the point, surrender. But they are so rascal, they will not do it. Therefore, Maya is giving them trouble in every way, ultimately. Just like my Guru Maharaj's plan was that I should come and preach. That was his first instruction. But I wanted that I will not take sannyas and remain as a grahasta, and then I shall do it. That is special favor. Krishna says, especially if I am very much anxious to get one reformed. By my mercy, the first thing is that I take away all his money. All right, so first we can see, at least on the first presentation about Leibniz, where it's a God-conscious point, Prabhupada says, I can see he's first class. I don't know if Prabhupada will stay on that level of opinion as we get into other aspects of Leibniz philosophy. But then certainly sometimes Prabhupada will hear the first thing presented about a philosopher and he might say something like, he's a rascal, he's a fool, or something like that. But we can see he's appreciating Leibniz in his God consciousness. And these early modernists, Descartes, Leibniz, you can see that they were using the empirical method. They were using the empirical method, the science, because, in the name of religion, it was just this kind of very unscientific, non-intellectual, anti-philosophical dogma. And then intellectual people couldn't accept that anymore. Just listen to what the Pope says or like that. And so the early modernists, from my familiarity, they were using these kind of newly rediscovered empirical methods to endeavor to establish the supremacy of the Supreme Person. So they were using it. Of course, there was some slippery slope going on because the kind of Shabda Brahman authority was broken. But they were, for the most part, most if not all of them, they were endeavoring to bring people to accept God on a philosophical, intellectual basis. So then Shyamasundar says, where is this stated? Prabhupada, it is in Bhagavat. This question was raised by Yudhisthira Maharaj. So sometimes that is special favor. By force, the whole plan is like that. But everyone wants to delay. By special favor, he draws by force. Come on, this time. Because that is explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that a rascal, he wants Krishna, or he wants God, but at the same time, he wants to enjoy this material world. Because to want God means finish with material world. So Prabhupada's following up on this verse. Yasyahamanugrinami harisheta danam shanai. Prabhupada often quotes that verse to refer to his own history. That he wanted, that's what he refers to. He wanted to serve Bhakti Siddhanta's mission, and his idea is he'll be a big businessman, he'll make a lot of money, then he can spread the Sankirtan movement, or even before that, like, yeah, he'll be a follower of Gandhi, then India will be independent, then people will listen. And Prabhupada had very abundant business opportunities, and then each time something really strange would happen, and something would get in the way, and then like the finances wouldn't quite come through in abundance. And so Prabhupada saying that, yeah, Krishna took everything away. Krishna took everything away, and then he had nothing, materially, no bank account, no more businesses, and then he got on the Jaladuta and like that. Yes, there's the 1958, Prabhupada's in Vrindavan, he writes a bhajan called Vrindavan Bhajan, and he says something like, yeah, I'm experiencing the naked face of material nature, something like that. And he's just saying, and now, yeah, my wife, my children, I have no money, they don't care for me, like that. And he's just saying the naked face of material nature. And you see, it's how he's moving to depths of like empowered, helpless surrender to Krishna. And of course, we don't see Prabhupada in the way he describes himself. The way he describes himself is like he wants to serve Bhaktisiddhanta's mission, but he still had material attachments. So Krishna took them away. Because we see that he was always fully non-attached to material belongings, but that's his humility. Okay, but at the same time, he wants to enjoy this material world, because to want God means finish with material world. But sometimes he is both ways. When Krishna sees the other way as hampering, he breaks his profit by force, so that in helpless condition, helpless, everything is explained in the Bhagavad. I take away his all money. He may try to get money, again I take. So in this way, when he becomes hopeless and there is no money, then he surrenders to me. And as soon as he has no money, his so-called relatives, friends, wife, children, they neglect. Oh, what is this man? He is useless. So he is bereft of money, he is bereft of friends, bereft of any love from wife and children. Then hopelessly he surrenders to Krishna. So the plan is that all these rascal living entities, those who are trying to be happy in this material world, nature's plan is to give him trouble. Every attempt shall be frustrated, every attempt shall fail, so that he may come after many, many births. Bahunam janmanamante yanavan mam prapadyante. So he has pointed out that there is a plan, and this is the plan to bring you back home, back to Godhead. It is not partial that somebody may remain here and somebody may go back to Godhead. No, the whole plan is that everyone must come back. But he is obstinate. He is obstinate, just like a bad boy. Father says, come on. He's not. He's crying, no, I'll not go. But the father's only business is to drag him. Therefore, the final, after speaking all the proposals in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says finally, I am giving you final, very confidential instructions. Sarva Guyatamam. You give up all this rascaldom arguing with me. Just surrender unto me. Arjuna was arguing, just surrender unto me. That is your business. If you think you will be sinful by killing I will give you protection. Therefore, before citing this verse, he says, I am speaking to you most confidentially. That means unless one is very sincere to God, he does not heed the final confidential instruction. All right, you go on with your own work. But to show Arjuna special favor, he says that I am talking to you now the most confidential instruction. I have talked to you about karma, jnana, yoga, and so many things. But the most confidential thing is this, that you fully surrender to me. I will give you all protection. So Prabhupada's highlighting the point that Krishna has a plan for everyone, all living entities, even us, to go back to Godhead. It's different philosophies we sometimes hear that like there are a chosen few who will go to the kingdom of God and the others will rot in hell. But Krishna has a plan for everyone to go back to Godhead. And and he's never forcing. Yate chasita taku. But Prabhupada makes it very graphic, just like a father has a plan for the child's goodwill, and the child might be throwing a temper tantrum. So material condition existence is we're throwing a temper tantrum, and against our best interests, that aham bija pradapita, Krishna is the seed-giving father of all living entities. Just like the father is wanting us to come back to our eternal blissful life. And we're like, no, I want to stay here. That's our stance. That's what material life means. So Shama Sundar continues. He explains the mechanistic phenomena, like the laws of nature. He explains that is the only effective means of fulfilling God's purpose. Prabhupada, that's it, yes. All the laws of nature are working. The body is Durga, the superintendent of the fort. This is called Durga. Just like fort is very much fortified. You cannot go. They say nobody can enter. Nobody can leave like that. That is called Durga. And the superintendent is called Durga. From Durga, it has come to Durga. She is also confidential maidservant of Krishna, but she has got, there's some indistinct here. Again, it's the raw recording, so some words are indistinct. She has got to punish these demons. That demons is that I worship his mother, but mother is engaged to punish him because indistinct. She is giving whatever the demon wants. Give me money, give me good wife, give me reputation, give me strength. All right, but at the same time, everything is frustrated with this indistinct word there. Two things are going on. One thing, that whatever he wants, he is given. I will get it. On the other side, punishment. That is nature's flow, and she is doing this under the instruction of Krishna. This living entity he has, or he wants immediately to become an enjoyer. So give him all sources of material enjoyment, but at the same time go on punishing him. Just like sometimes politicians give them everything. So that is going on. And this nature is working under the direction of Krishna. That is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita. Durga, the goddess of the fortress of the material world, she is so powerful that she can create such things. She can maintain cities, and she has got all the power. She's so powerful. Her name is Durga, but she is working just like a shadow. Shadow is called not independent moving. Here is shadow. I move this hand, and it is moving. She is called, but the movement is from Krishna. Srishti stiti phalaya sadhana shakti veka chayeva yasya puranani vipati durga ichanupamapi yasya chatishtate sa govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. All our activities are just like shadows. Ichanupam. She is working under the direction of Govinda. Therefore, I worship Govinda, the cause of all causes. This is stated in Brahma Samhita. So these rascals, foolish, they are thinking material nature is for our enjoyment. That is the materialistic view. There is a flower. Nature has produced this flower for me. Everything is for me. Just like in the Bible, Jesus Christ says, the animals are given under the protection of man. So they are thinking, they are given to us for eating. God has given. Suppose I entrust Brahmananda Swami that you give him protection, but if you think, he's in my protection, I can eat him. How intelligent, how magnanimous. They're giving protection by eating. And the Mayavadi philosophers support them, that when they eat animals, Vivekananda's philosophy, so what is there? I am Brahman, he is Brahman, so we become united. What is that? And I ask him, why don't you go to the tiger Brahman? Because they are thinking. Because they are thinking that he is Brahman, the goat is Brahman. So when the man Brahman eats the goat Brahman, they unite. So why don't you unite with the tiger Brahman?
No problem.
Yeah, no problem. It's funny. This is rascaldom. They're all rascals. Anyone who has no trace of Krishna consciousness, he's a rascal. There is our challenge. He may be great philosopher, religionist, he is a rascal, degree only. percent rascal, or maybe 90% rascal, or 70% rascal, but they're all rascals. The same example, stool, this side and that side, because the upside of stool is dried up, you cannot say it is very nice. And they're all stool. Anyone who is not Krishna conscious, who does not know the science of Krishna, he's useless. So that's a very powerful imagery. So Prabhupada's, he's citing Vivekananda. Vivekananda was pretty much the first Indian Swami Guru to come to the West, at least the one that's known. And in, I think it was 1898, he spoke at a big conference in Chicago, International Conference of Religious Studies or something. And Vivekananda, represented Hinduism and kind of the what's called the Neo-Vedanta and that sort of thing. And so apparently, based on what we hear from Prabhupada here, so Vivekananda was promoting yes, no, if you're in the West, you should do like they do and eat meat. And the goat is also Brahman. So man Brahman eats goat Brahman. So Prabhupada just exposing. Yeah, it's quite nauseating actually, right? That there's just this personal desire and trying to hide it around, Neo-Vedanta philosophy.
You said what year was that again?
Okay, the conference in Chicago, I'm thinking 1898, somewhere in the 1890s. Yeah. Prabhupada references it many times. Sometimes, like here by name, again, this is raw transcriptions. But sometimes in lectures, even in his books, he'll refer to Vivekananda, they'll not say his name, but he'll refer to how he, in the modern times, he's a major misrepresenter of the actual Vedic philosophy and culture. Yes. I think that Vivekananda was the one Prabhupada will sometimes reference. And Vivekananda would say, why are you growing tulasi plant? You should grow eggplant. You can eat eggplant, but you cannot eat tulasi plant. Like that. Things like that. And this is very progressive.
Oh yeah. Oh, Vivekananda would say that.
He would say that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Right.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. Right. So Prabhupada would cite it as, this completely destroying the Vedic culture and breaking people's faith. Yeah, like that. All right. So Leibniz says that there are two classes of truth. Prabhupada, what are the symptoms of truth? Shamasundar, yes, he divides it into two classes. One is there are logically necessary principles, the truths of reason as innate knowledge, just like the three sides of a triangle equal 180 degrees. That is innate knowledge or logically necessary truth. This is also called a priori knowledge or knowledge that exists independently. Then he says that there is knowledge acquired by experience or a posteriori, accidental knowledge, just like snow is white, but it could be red. It's possible that it could be red. This type of truth, which comes from our experience, but is accidental and it is not necessary. So Prabhupada says, so real truth is that God has got a plan, and one who knows it, that is real truth. One who hasn't got to be taught by another man by nature, he knows it. That by nature he knows it. That is a symptom of his life, true life. And one who does not know it, that is not. That is explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nitya Siddha Krishna Bhakta. That truth is there already, but he has forgotten it. Therefore, by this propaganda of devotional service, chanting and hearing, he simply revives the truth. The truth is there that I am eternal servant of Krishna. Therefore, the conclusion should be anyone who is cognizant of this truth, that I am eternal servant, that is symptom of this truth. There is no other symptom. That is the symptom of truth. That is the symptom of goodness, all good qualities, everything good. He is good by nature. The living entity, he is part and parcel of the supreme good, but by his material association, he has become bad. So again, he has to draw to goodness by this propaganda. Krishna consciousness, that is our business. So Shyaman Sundar is representing Leibniz, is saying there's a priori knowledge, which is innate. It's not based on what we experience. It's innate truth. And gives the example of 180 degrees and the angles of a triangle. So Prabhupada's taking that and he goes, okay, so the ultimate essential innate knowledge, Nityasiddha Krishna Prema Sajja Kabunai Shravanadi Shuddhachitte Kariyerudai, is that love of Krishna is situated in the hearts of all living entities. That's the primordial innate knowing from the core of our being. And so that's always present, and it's covered. And this process of sadhana bhakti is to uncover that innate knowledge. Shama Sundar continues. He says there are two types of truth. One is just like the principle of a triangle. There are three angles equal to 180 degrees, and the other type of truth is gathered by experience. For instance, we see that snow is white, but it is also possible that snow may be red. Prabhupada, but this is also experienced that the three angles of a triangle make 180 degrees. Shama Sundar, but this truth exists independently without any. Prabhupada, how independently? Not everyone knows what is a triangle, what is an angle, and what is a degree. When one comes to study geometry, then he understands. You cannot ask any child or any man who has no knowledge of geometry that these three angles of a triangle makes 180 degrees. Shyamasundar. But this truth exists whether the man knows it or not. This truth exists that three sides of a triangle equals 180 degrees. Prabhupada, but truth means it exists, not this truth or that truth. Truth means that you may know or not know, but it exists. That is truth. So why is he making this example? Shyamasundar, because there is also a truth that snow is white. They say snow is white, but that truth is not absolute because snow could be red also. But a triangle must always equal 180 degrees. That is an absolute truth, a necessary truth. Prabhupada. So any mathematical calculation is like that. Why this example? Mathematical means this, 2 + 2 = 4. That is always the truth. Shyamasundar. He is trying to prove that there are certain truths that we cannot deny they exist independent of our knowledge, fundamental. And there are other truths that people say, like snow is white, which may not be true because our senses deceive us. Prabhupada, that is your defective senses. But snow is white, that's a fact. Why should it be red? At least we have no experience with red snow. Shyamasundar, I've seen red snow. Prabhupada, how it is. Shyamasundar, particles of lava dust gathered in the snow and in the air. Prabhupada, that is not pure snow. So Prabhupada is making the point that pure snow is white, just like pure light is white, but it can be filtered with red crepe paper or blue crepe paper, like that. So that is not pure snow. That is another thing. Pure snow is white, just like water. Water by nature, it is crystal. But when it comes in touch with the earth, it becomes muddy. So that muddiness is due to contact with something external. Snow is white by nature, but in contact with something else, it looks red. But the truth that snow is white, that is truth. Not that snow becoming red. You are making, or by some other contact, it is looking like that. But snow is white, that's a truth. Shyamasundar. But he says that there are two types of truth. There's innate truth. Prabhupada. This is innate truth, as three angles of a triangle are equal to 180 degrees. Similarly, snow is white, water is liquid, stone is hard, chili is hot, sugar is sweet. These are eternal truths, fundamental truths. Similarly, a living entity is eternal servant of God. This is eternal truth. It cannot be changed. Water is liquid. That is the natural position. But when water becomes hard, it is due to temperature under certain conditions. But as soon as the temperature reduces, the water becomes liquid. So liquidity of water is truth. Similarly, whiteness of snow is truth. Similarly, servitude of the living entity is truth. But he is serving Maya, that is untruth. If we take that there are two types of truth, there cannot be two types of truth. Truth is one. What we take as truth, that is Maya. So Prabhupada's going to the principle of Dharma. Dharma is that which cannot be separated from a thing. Chilies are hot. The nature of the soul is to serve. Like that. Sugar is sweet. Shamasundar, oh, there's only one truth. Prabhupada, yes, there can't be two truths. Shamasundar, but due to our imperfect senses. Prabhupada, yes, that is what is called Maya. Maya has no existence, but it appears like truth. The same example, the shadow has no existence, but it also looks like my finger. And everything exactly. In the mirror, you see your face exactly the same, but it is untruth. The truth is one. Truth cannot be two types of truth. What is taken as truth for the present moment, and by experience, he comes to the right truth, that is called Maya. Shamasundar, he says that these two types of truth are governed by two different principles. The truth of reason, or the logically necessary proof, like the triangle. Prabhupada, this is reason, that truth is one. When we find another competitor truth, that is Maya. Truth cannot be two. Shamasundar, this is what he says, that these innate truths are governed by the principle of contradiction. That is, the opposite of the truth is impossible to conceive. If something is true, the opposite of that truth is impossible to conceive. Prabhupada, the opposite is Maya. Opposite to truth is Maya. Shamasundar, just like the sum of the angles of a triangle must equal 180 degrees, it is impossible to conceive of the opposite.
I still kind of not 100% convinced on it philosophically. Like, I get what he's saying, that the natural state of water is to be liquid.
Right.
But if it's ice,
yes,
there's a relative truth there, because if I'm walking on an icy walkway, that means I have to adjust. I have to treat it in relation to it being ice, otherwise I'm going to fall on it. You know what I mean?
we need to respond to that relative truth.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, that's what I get the guys saying, that there's absolute truths, and then there's relatives.
Yes.
But the way that Prabhupada's saying is that I get what he means. Yeah, the relative truths are Maya.
Right.
But still, when I'm walking down the crosswalk, yeah, okay, I'm in Maya, but it's still, when I'm walking, I have to
relate to the ice, ice state of water.
Yeah.
The way I would see Prabhupada would respond to that, or like this, my understanding. Okay, because I think most vitally, so the nature of the spirit soul is to serve God with love and devotion. Okay, that's the Sanatana Dharma, the eternal Dharma of the soul. The nature of the soul is to serve. Okay. All right. So then, in the not normal state, that propensity for service is directed somewhere other than Krishna, and then we get these bodies. So these bodies are a relative truth, and okay, these bodies are a relative truth. So they exist. But there's no endurance. There's no endurance to this Maya truth. But then, as you're saying, but still it's important.
Yeah, like we're supposed to look after the health.
Yeah.
The body.
The idea is, yeah, okay, let's use this relative truth, which in a sense has no substantial existence, right? Even the body's changing every moment. Even in terms of the body, we call David Wolf in a few years or decades, or who knows, not going to be here like that. But still, we do need to relate to it, right? We do need to relate to it. We don't want to escape, try to artificially escape from our psychophysical nature. We want to use the relative to serve the absolute, to serve that eternal Dharma. We want to use the temporary to serve the eternal, use the relative to serve the absolute. And so the truths of Maya, okay, like the energy of Maya is an eternal truth, but the forms that it takes, like this body and the conception of body, me and mind, the forms it takes are temporary and illusory. I mean, it's real, but the idea that I am this body and this is my house, that's illusion. So I guess that's what I'm seeing, where Prabhupada's saying, like metaphorically, that sure, water can be in the state of ice, but in normal condition, it's liquid. So similarly, we can, in the abnormal condition, then we can misdirect our dharmic propensity to serve God and direct it elsewhere. And then we get these ice forms. Which have no substantial truth to them. Still, we can use them to serve the absolute Dharma of the soul.
Yeah, so he's just establishing to look at it from the absolute platform. He's not to get so caught up in these relative truths, even to look at the relative truths from the absolute platform, not from the material.
That's my understanding. Yeah. That's my understanding. Okay. All right. So.
So then it comes like, a spirit soul having a human experience, not a human having a spiritual experience.
Right. I think, yeah,
so that's kind of like the human aspect is relative in there.
Yes.
But it's from the spirit soul having a human experience. That's the absolute vision of it, and to look at it from a human having a spiritual experience, to look at it from a material
perspective, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I like that description. Yes. Okay. Truth cannot be two. Shyamasundar, this is what he says, that these innate truths are governed by the principle of contradiction. That is, the opposite of the truth is impossible to conceive. If something is true, the opposite of that truth is impossible to conceive. Prabhupada, the opposite is Maya. Opposite to truth is Maya. Shyamasundar, just like the sum of the angles of a triangle must equal 180 degrees, it is impossible to conceive of the opposite. Prabhupada, similarly, the other example that snow is white, to think of snow not white, that cannot be conceived. Shyamasundar, he says that snow is white is not one of these eternal truths, that it is possible to conceive that snow could be red. Prabhupada, why? You say that redness of snow is possible under certain circumstances. Shyamasundar, yes. Prabhupada, so that is possible in every case. Therefore, the real feature of snow is not red. It appears to be red under certain conditions, but that is not truth. That is untruth. Shyamasundar, what about 2 + 2 = 4? Prabhupada, that is true. Shyamasundar, it's impossible to conceive of the opposite of that truth. So that is what he would call logically necessary proof, proved by the law of contradiction. Prabhupada, my point is that he says that there are two types of truth. No, there cannot be two types of truth. That is my protest. I say there is only one truth. When you think two types of truth, then you are mistaken. Then same thing, when you think that 2 + 2 = 5, then you are mistaken. 2 + 2 is always 4, that is truth. Similarly, snow is white always, that is truth. When you think it is red, it is untruth. But you cannot say it is another type of truth. Mistake cannot be accepted as another type of truth. Mistake is mistake. I'm reminded of verse 16 of chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita. Nasato vijite bhavo nambhavo vijite sata. Ubayora bidrishton tas tanyos tatvadarshi. Krishna says, seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent there is no endurance, and of the existent there is no cessation. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. So, yeah, like there is truth in the Maya world, but that relates to the temporary forms of Maya. There's no substance to it. It's like the shadow. It's like the shadow. The shadow exists, but there's no substance to the shadow. All right, so we'll read to the end of this page here. Shyamasundar, I think he says the same things, but the language is different. Prabhupada, there are two types of truth. What is that language? One truth is real truth. Another truth is shadow truth. It is not truth, it is shadow. That is the exact language. Yeah. Shadow example. That is the exact language. The same example we can give. You see your face in the mirror as exactly the same, but it is shadow. Therefore, it is untruth. You cannot say that this reflection of your face on the mirror is another type of truth. Can you say like that? You cannot say that. Shyamasundar, well, he would say that if I saw the shadow of myself in the mirror, Prabhupada, no, whatever he may say, we cannot accept that there are two types of truth. That is not possible. Shyamasundar, he calls this type of truth conditional truth. Prabhupada, the conditional truth is the untruth. Shyamasundar, just like if I saw by my senses some snow that was red. Prabhupada, that is due to your defect of seeing a condition and not knowing the condition. Shyamasundar, but I can explain by sufficient reasons why that snow is red. Prabhupada, just like a living entity is trying to become master, I am the monarch of all I survey. That is untruth. The truth is that he is eternal servant. You cannot say that because one is trying to be imitation God, that is another truth. You cannot say that. That is Maya. There cannot be a second God. God is one. That is truth, absolute truth. Our point is that we do not accept this proposition that there are two types of truth. That is not at all acceptable. Truth is one. Okay, Shyamasundar, supposing you saw some ice and you said, due to their being cold, this water has turned hard and become ice. Prabhupada, that is another proposition. Water is liquid, but when water becomes hard, that is artificial. But that hardness, snow is white, that is truth. Otherwise, nothing is truth except Krishna, relative truth. Krishna is absolute truth. There are relative truths, so this is relative truth. Krishna is substance. Now, from Krishna, everything is emanating by his energy. Water is also one of the energies, but that energy is not absolute truth, that water. But in that relativeness, the water's liquidity is truth, but it is relative truth. Shyamasundar, that is what he is saying, that there's absolute truth and relative truth. Prabhupada, absolute truth is one. Then he can say that absolute truth and relative truth, not that two types of truth. Shyamasundar, that's what he says. There are relative truths and absolute truths. Prabhupada, that we accept. There are truths, relative and absolute. Shyamasundar, and he says that the test for both types of absolute truth and relative truth is that for absolute truth, it is impossible to conceive of the opposite. Prabhupada, opposite is Maya. Maya is not truth. Maya is illusion. Shamasundar, relative truths are governed by the law of sufficient reason. In other words, they can be most reasonably explained by reference to all of the conditions in which they are found. Prabhupada, just like you can explain how the snow is formed, the molecular structure of the water, and how they become compact by temperature. Shamasundar, he says that everything goes by steps in nature and not by leaps. In other words, there is a law of continuity, like there are no gaps in nature. Everything is gradual. There is a gradual differentiation. So, Prabhupada went right where our discussion went. So I see my reflection in the mirror. I said, well, that reflection is the truth. But there's no substance to it to say that because that nose, it's not a real nose, it's just a reflection. It's similar with the shadow. The shadow, okay, well, there's a real shadow, but I say, oh, that's my hand. Well, no, that's illusion. It's not a real truth. But we can say it's a relative truth. Very, very deep philosophy.
Yeah. What was he saying about the water being, Krishna being absolute truth and water being a relative truth? And then he was mentioning something about that.
Yes.
Like water being wet is absolute in relation to that relative, the material nature, the relative truth.
Yes.
I can't remember what that.
Right. Okay, I'll find that. Yeah. So Prabhupada says, water is liquid, but when water becomes hard, that is artificial. But that hardness, snow is white, that is truth. Otherwise, nothing is truth except Krishna, relative truth. Krishna is absolute truth. There are relative truths, so this is relative truth. Krishna is substance. Now from Krishna, everything is emanating by his energy. Water is also one of the energies, but that energy is not absolute truth, that water. But in that relativeness, the water's liquidity is truth, but it is relative truth. So I guess what I'm understanding is like sometimes early in discussion, Prabhupada is using water as its inherent dharma as being liquid to illustrate like the principles, kind of like the principle of absolute truth. But really, in a sense, it's just a metaphor. Yeah. And that's saying like the ultimate absolute truth is Krishna. And his energies in their different forms are relative. So like in saying that, Prabhupada's coming out of the analogies, coming out of the metaphor. And he's saying the actual absolute truth is Krishna.
Yeah, he's trying to get them to be able to grasp what absolute truth means by using relative. He's trying to use a material example to put across the spiritual principle. Yeah.
That's my understanding.
Yeah. So there's some truth there, but just not really nothing. Yeah. Not a very substantial truth.
Yeah. It's a shadow truth.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Rather than getting into the too many considerations, then he's at least simplifying, I guess, the relative truth. Also, rather you could look at water as like steam.
Yeah.
Or you could look at water as ice, and all these. Then it gets even more complicated, more relative,
more nuanced. Yeah.
Yeah.
but just to try to convey the point as simply as possible.
Yeah.
Yes. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.